Okay, so here we are working within After Effects for our sort of week 5 class exercise, focusing on how we animate our puppet or our character within After Effects using our DUIK After Effects plugin. So this is the project that I provided for you on Canvas. You'll see that we have all the elements of the character here. The only difference is that obviously our foot and sort of leg elements and so on are all stacked together. So you might want to spend a moment just sort of pulling them apart. I think that's technically a neck piece, some arms and whatnot. Okay, just sort of rearrange that to a rough sort of body shape until you're happy. Just hide the neck for now. Alright, so you can see when you're beginning to set up in your project here, this is actually a HD size composition, so 1920 by 1080 pixels, which is our standard composition setting. So if we look at our composition settings, you can see it here, HD TV, 1080-25, which is our 1920 by 1080 pixel size. We're working at a frame rate of 25 frames per second, and I've set the duration here to 10 seconds in length. Okay. So I'm just sort of going to move this around for a moment. You can see very similar to animate, we have a layer for every item. Okay, so every element, so the head, the body, the foot, left and right, and so on. Okay, now the first thing you'll want to do is to just sort of move around these anchor points and make sure they're in the correct position. So if you look, for example, at one of my arms, you can see this point here. If I select it, that's called your anchor point. All right, you can see that that's actually sitting in the middle of the arm. I want that to be in the position where the joint is. So to move your anchor point around, yeah, you're right. So I just set it to 25 frames per second. Yeah.
What's the shortcut to get to that?
Command K. Command K for the shortcut. Yes. All right. So here I am ready to move my anchor point, for example, for my arm. If you go over and find the tool called the pan behind or anchor point tool, it's Y on your keyboard for the shortcut. You can actually then click and move around this anchor point. And it's important to do so because if I was to rotate this arm, for example, right, you'll see that it will rotate around that point. Okay, so if I don't move it, it's going to rotate around the middle there. So we need to make sure that it's set up correctly. All right, so just go through your character here and set up those anchor points using the pan behind or anchor point tool section. Right, just fixing that up, ready to work with. Okay, putting the head anchor point at the bottom there. So we can obviously control it around our neck and then our arms and whatnot. Now you might sort of set yours up in a slightly different manner depending on how you want your character to move or where you want the joints to be. Okay, I'm just going to rotate this arm here. Alright, so we've got our character all set up, ready to work with. Alright, so working with our character now, we can obviously see the all the anchor points have been set up in the correct places, ready to rotate and move them around. Now normally if you're working with a graphic or an element within After Effects, okay, if you're going to animate, for example, its rotation or position, similar to animate, you would have to look at the value you wanted to animate, for example, this arm's position. You'd make sure that you're sort of say back at 0 to start off with. Under your transform properties, remember you have a stopwatch. You could click that stopwatch, which turns blue and activates it and puts in a keyframe. You then have to move forward in time and you make that animation movement. So let's say I wanted the arm to go up there. Obviously between this point and this point, the arm's going to move up. So if I wanted the arm, for example, to move and rotate, okay, you do a similar thing. You'd click the stopwatch for rotation, have to move along to that keyframe, and then obviously rotate it in the desired value of how much I want it to go up, like so. Okay, so that's fine if I want that to sort of be my process of manually animating it, but you can see that when I do that, it only animates that part of the body, that part of the arm. Okay, that's a very slow way to work. It does work, but it's a slower way to work. So when you rig a character, it actually makes it much quicker and much faster to work. All right. So what I'm going to do is just remove those keyframes, undo all of that, just to show you the difference between animating by default within After Effects and using our DUIK rigging. Okay, so to set up your DUIK rigging, we need to actually first of all install it on the After Effects file. So just save your project once you've set it all up. Okay, make sure you've saved it because we'll be closing After Effects to install this. We can then go to Window, and you want to navigate all the way down to the bottom of Window there until you find something called DUIK.jsx. Okay, so click and select DUIK.jsx, and that's going to choose our DUIK program to set up. Now we're going to work with English, so click OK. And you can see that it's going to, it needs basically permission to be installed within After Effects. So open your general preferences. Okay, and you can see what we need to click on is this box in the middle bottom here that says allow scripts to write files and access network. Tick on that box there and then press OK. All right. So once we've done that, we'll need to actually close After Effects, close the whole project, program, and so on. So just choose After Effects Quit. If you haven't saved it, I would save it before doing this. Okay, and then we'll reopen it. We might need to do this a couple of times. So I'm just going to open up my file again, because essentially we need to restart the program for this to install correctly. You should only need to install this once on this computer. And again, if you wanted to work on it at home, you'll need to install it then as well. Okay, so I've reopened After Effects. If I have a look at my DUIK panel by clicking the second bottom at the option here in the window panel, you can see that we're ready to work. It now says Launch DUIK. Okay, installation's complete, and again we have to restart one more time. So just close this, close your project, quit After Effects, and then we can reopen it one last time, ready to work. Okay, I'll just pause it there for a moment. Does anyone need a hand with that stuff? Sorry, I went through it quickly. Okay, so now we're ready to continue on. Alright, so we should have now with our reopened After Effects project. Okay, if we go to the window panel, we can see DUIK. Click on it like so. Just have to launch it like this. And this is the panel that we have to view. Okay, so this is our plugin panel. We're using a slightly older version of DUIK.
What is? Are you talking about this thing?
Guys, are you paying attention? Okay, so we're using a slightly older version of DUIK here. The latest version does have some nice sort of laid out buttons and so on, so it's just, again, a style difference, just in case your version at home looks different. You'll see there's a range of different tools available here, from something known as IK, or Inverse Kinematics, is what it stands for, to Bezier, controllers, zero, replacing, all this kind of stuff. We're going to be focusing in particular on just setting up controllers and rigs and so on. Okay, and the first thing we want to do is to select and set up our objects so they move together. Okay, so have you heard of the idea of parenting objects before? Okay, if you haven't, that's all right. Essentially, it allows us to control one object controlling another object underneath, for example. So for example, if I wanted to move my entire character around, I want everything to be parented to the body. All right, and you can do that if we look in our After Effects timeline here. We've got parent, and you've got these little spirals, and you can see they're all set to none. So for example, I want my upper arm, so select my upper left arm here to be a parent of the body, or to be a child technically of the body. So I'm going to click and drag this spiral to the body like so, okay, and that will make my parent the body, meaning if I was to move the body, the upper arm moves with it. Okay, so again, I just select an object. So for example, I'll do my right upper arm. Okay, click this spiral here, click and drag it over to the body. Again, now if I click and drag that, you can see it takes both upper arms with them. You can also click and choose from the drop-down menu here where it says none. It does the same thing. Okay, so this is just setting it up in After Effects first of all. So now, obviously with my upper arms set up, I want my lower arms to be set up as well. So my lower arm left, for example, I'm actually going to set that up to my upper arm left. All right, and then my lower arm right is going to be set up to my upper arm right. Okay, so obviously if I was to move the upper arm left, the lower arm comes with it. If I was to move the body, everything comes with it, and so on. Do the same thing with your whole puppet until it's all set up and organized. Okay, so selecting upper leg left here, choosing the body, upper leg right, also choosing the body, and then lower leg. Okay, so, yep, and then foot left here should be parented to my upper leg left, and foot right should be parented to my upper leg right. Okay, lastly, my head should also be parented to my body. Okay, I'm not actually going to use my neck layer. I'm going to delete that, so don't feel like you need to use it. You can if you want to. So the only one without a parent is my body. And that's because if I click and drag it, the whole object moves around. But if I move my sort of arm, for example, all right, lower arm's just going to move by itself. Upper arm's going to take the lower arm with it. Similar with the legs. It just allows a parenting of control over your character setup. Okay, so just think about connecting them all together there. Once I've done that, I'm going to save my file. I can then move on to actually creating a setup for my character. So the DUIK plugin allows you to basically create these things called controllers, which are like little handles you can click and drag around that don't get rendered out in your final animation, but allow you to move your puppet. Okay, and there's an easy way to create them. First thing you want to do is basically select your object that's going to be animated or controlled. So for example, I'm going to select my lower right arm, then holding Shift, select my upper right arm. Okay, and I'm then going to choose the menu over here that says Controllers. Okay, you can see that it gives you, when I select Controllers, a range of information, size, custom size, color. Just so I can see it on our background, I'm going to choose red as my color, and then choose Create. Okay, I might have done that wrong, 1 second. Yeah, okay, what I've done instead, I'm just going to redo that. Okay, so select your lower right arm, okay, just like so. Go up to the option here where it says Controllers, and you'll see our menu. Now, I've changed my color to red, just so we can see it against the white background. Just click Create, and it will create this circle symbol like so. So this is an example of our controller. Okay, and I'm just going to position this, for example, on my lower right arm. Okay, and the next step would be to actually rig that controller to our limbs. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to select my controller, holding down Command, I'm going to select the lower right arm and then the upper right arm. Go across to the IK tool, and you can see by default this is looking at how the joins work. I've got 2-layer IK selected, which is what I want. Just click Create, and it's going to actually link them together. So if I now move this, you can see it moves my arm via this handle. Okay, I'm going to redo it for you, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to re-show you how to do that now. So with my left arm, for example, okay, first thing you do is select the left lower limb and we create a handle for it. Okay, so choose a controller, I should say specifically. So select controllers, got a red one there, click create. Right, so I've created a controller. Is that clear with everyone? If it's not red, just change it under the controllers setting here.
Where should the controller be positioned?
I usually put it on the extremes of the arms, like the hands or something. So I sort of just moved it to the hands position. It just helps you see it, that's all. So it doesn't have to be. Okay, so create a controller, place it where the hand is. Once we've done that, I've just made too many. There we are. Okay, so like so. I can then, you can see it's created the controller layer. All right, and because I selected my left hand here, it's given it the same name. So C for controller, lower left. I can then select the rigging. So holding command, I'm going to click on my lower left there, so select it. And then going to select my lower left arm, like so, and then my upper left arm, like so. Okay, so it's selected 3 layers here. So just holding command, controller, lower arm, upper arm. Once I've done that, I choose IK, this very top one, IK. And you can see that we're using this second option here, which uses a handle. And then we basically just click create. Okay, so just click create, and that will fix it all up for you. So you don't have to change anything else in those settings, just click create, like so, which will then allow you to move this arm around.
Wait, do we take the lock and shine layers?
1 second. I don't think so. So I'm going to create another hand controller first. Which layers, sorry? So controller, lower leg, upper leg. Choose IK. Oops. Select the bones and controller. So, sorry. Controller, then the items. Why is that not? Controller, foot left, upper leg left. Okay. So you shouldn't have to tick anything in this box, to be honest. It's just the one that's already by default. 2 layer IK. Just click create.
Does it matter which part you pick first?
It does matter in the hierarchy of what will move. So if you chose your upper leg and then your lower leg, it's going to only move your upper leg first.
Oh, okay.
So you've got to click it in the right order there. Yeah. Alright, I'll come and give you a hand. That's alright. I'll essentially leave it at that for now.